Good evening. We begin tonight's report in the heart of eastern France in the city of Châlons-en-Champagne, where Prime Minister François Bayrou delivered a message that has already ignited national debate. In a carefully framed statement, Bayrou turned his attention not to France's past achievements, but to the challenges of its future, declaring that the country's older generations, those often described as the post-war baby boomers, must not turn away from the struggles now facing young French citizens. Bayrou's remarks came during a visit to the Marne region, but their resonance was national. He revealed that his use of the word boomers was not accidental. It was, in fact, borrowed from the vocabulary of younger French people themselves. According to Bayrou, he received a flood of messages from young citizens who told him that for the very first time they felt a French leader had truly spoken about them, and in their own terms. This was not mere political theatre, he suggested, but an effort to validate the experiences of a generation that feels overlooked, sidelined, and left to carry the weight of choices made decades earlier. Bayrou described the paradox at the heart of France's generational divide. The boomers, as he acknowledged, built modern France. They powered its post-war recovery. They worked tirelessly to keep the country running, and they earned, in his words, the respect of the nation. But he stressed that those achievements cannot serve as an excuse for indifference to the precarious reality facing today's youth. For the Prime Minister, recognition of the past must be accompanied by responsibility for the present. The heart of his speech centred on this responsibility. As a citizen, he said, it is finally time to take into account the younger generations whom we have failed to consider for years. He recounted a message he received from a young listener who told him, finally, in what you said, I felt seen. That reaction, Bayrou argued, underscores the duty of political leaders. If France can agree on the diagnosis of the problem, he said, then all manner of solutions can be debated. But failing to act, he warned, carries the greatest risk of all. This, Bayrou insisted, is the very strategy of his government, to face the truth squarely, to accept the risk of political backlash, and to propose measures that may be difficult but necessary. He acknowledged the personal cost, admitting that his remarks were indeed a risk for the Prime Minister himself, perhaps even for his government, but he added with characteristic resolve that there will always be another government. What matters most, he declared, is avoiding the ultimate danger, the danger of doing nothing while a generation struggles under the weight of economic, social and cultural crises. Behind Bayrou's words lies a deeper context. France today finds itself at a crossroads, with a mounting national debt, a looming confidence vote in Parliament and austerity measures on the horizon. The government is asking for sacrifices across society. His programme includes sweeping cuts, reining in holiday benefits, adjusting pensions and tightening subsidies. These proposals, if implemented, will affect millions, including the very boomers whose contributions he praised. By explicitly naming that generation, Bayrou sought both to honour and to challenge them, to recognise their sacrifices of the past while calling upon them to bear responsibility for the future. But this is no simple appeal. For many older French citizens, the notion that they must do more after decades of work, after paying into pensions, after enduring economic shocks, feels unjust. For younger people, however, Bayrou's acknowledgement rings differently. They hear, perhaps for the first time, a Prime Minister who sees their anxieties, the crushing cost of housing, the uncertainty of jobs in a rapidly changing economy, the looming shadow of climate change, and the fear that their future may not equal, let alone surpass, the stability of their parents. The historical symbolism of Bayrou's words is important. The baby boom generation emerged in the shadow of war. They rebuilt France from ruins. They laid the foundations of modern prosperity, and they sustained the welfare state. Yet, as economists often warn, prosperity borrowed from tomorrow cannot last forever. France's rising debt and shrinking demographic base mean that the younger generations are inheriting burdens far heavier than those of the past. Bayrou's appeal is, in essence, a recognition of this generational imbalance. Politically, the stakes could not be higher. Bayrou has only days before a crucial confidence vote in the National Assembly, an event that could determine the survival of his government. His opponents argue that his austerity measures are draconian, that they risk undermining France's social fabric. His supporters counter that avoiding difficult reforms will only postpone the inevitable collapse. By choosing to frame this debate in generational terms, Bayrou has shifted the spotlight from abstract economics to lived human experience. Reaction to his words has been swift. Among the young, there is a cautious optimism. Some see in Bayrou's language a long-awaited recognition, a rare validation from the highest office in the land. Among the old, reactions are mixed. Some boomers bristle at what they perceive as finger-pointing. Others accept the Prime Minister's call, acknowledging that their grandchildren's future must not be sacrificed for their comfort. In Parliament, the opposition has seized on his words, accusing him of creating unnecessary divisions in a country already strained by political and social tensions. But Bayrou, as ever, appears undeterred. His message, he insists, is not about blame, but about solidarity. He does not dismiss the contributions of the past. Instead, he seeks to connect them to the obligations of the present. His words from Châlons-en-Champagne were not shouted in anger, but delivered in sober recognition, the recognition that France cannot move forward unless each generation sees itself in the struggles of the other. And so tonight, the Prime Minister leaves the nation with a challenge to look beyond generational divides, to face uncomfortable truths, and to embrace the risks of reform for the sake of those who will inherit tomorrow. In his words, the greatest risk is not political defeat, nor the fall of a government, but the paralysis of doing nothing in the face of urgent crisis. From the streets of Châlons-en-Champagne to the corridors of power in Paris, Bayrou's appeal now echoes, a call for the baby boomers to join hands with the youth, not as rivals, but as partners in shaping the destiny of France.